It just occurred to me how many people were discussing Credit Suisse weeks ago. I don't really cover many individual stocks, but I did cover Credit Suisse, indicating it was a black swan specifically, and it could take everything down. I also said there were quite a few black swans, but I really don't cover too many individual stocks. And yeah, it's true, Credit Suisse didn't start it. It was, Silicon Valley Bank, which I'd never heard of. I don't think many people heard of it, but I got to give myself a bit of credit there, I think. And also the fact that we cover gold and silver here, that's the one asset that has just truly gone up huge. And I'm not really talking about percentage wise, because you could say Bitcoin's outdone it, but Bitcoin's followed the market on a few days, whilst gold has really acted inversely to the market, better than the volatility index, VIX. So not only covering Credit Suisse, but promoting and being heavily in by far the precious metals. I think I've had an absolutely wonderful week. And anyway, the only thing that counts is profit in general strategy, which has been wonderful. So I'm very happy about that. I just thought I'd like to note that. We're going to cover a lot today. It's extremely important. This week has been unbelievable in terms of the excitement and the significance of it. And I cannot understate how significant this move is in gold and silver and in miners too, because I was talking about how the miners would catch up. I also mentioned how gold would just go up. I was very bullish gold, even after a big move, initially $60 move off the low when the banking crisis really started. And I said this could go all the way up, and it's basically doing that now. And I rarely say that I'm bullish an asset after it's already moved high, after it's already done a 1 or 2 day heavy move. I'm a contrarian, but when you zoom out, first of all, gold is a contrarian asset. Hardly anyone's in it. But when you zoom out of the chart, you notice that gold has a long way up to go, and silver even more, and the miners even more. And this week has just been incredible. Friday, which is what I'm going to cover today, was really, really impressive, especially the close. Um, Monday, you could just have a continuation. You could have an even bigger move on Monday as people start to really freak out, because essentially, this is a banking crisis. It's a financial crisis. It started last week, you could say, but this week it really accelerated. And why is it more important this week? Because after the bailouts, and I think we had two, we had the US government doing their deposit heroics, which is absolutely stupid. It's spreading the virus to the bigger banks, and it's a moral hazard, and it's turning QE back on. It's unwinding QT, reversing QT. The rate increases are going to become pauses and maybe even decreases. But anyway, you had the US bank bailing out SVB. And you also had the Swiss National Bank bailing out Credit Suisse, but those haven't stemmed the tides. And now you've got the other banks, the regional bank index, you've got other banks in the process. And another bank that I've always had my eye on is Deutsche Bank. I should show you the charts, and I will, but I'm just saying that next week it could be a continuation. We're going to get into all of this when I cover gold and silver. I have to cover the markets first, and the markets, I suppose, are still the most. No, they're not the most important actually, and you can tell because of what's going on with the Nasdaq, I would say. But let's start with the markets, because that's the structure I usually follow. So, almost anticlimactic here when you look at the S&P down 1.5%. That should be a pretty bad day, but with what's going on, the S&P should be where this blue target is. That's not why I've got the blue target, but that's pretty much the equivalent of where the other indices are. By that I mean the Dow Jones and the Russell, but the S&P is just sort of sideways. Where will it go? It'll go down here next week. With what I think's coming, I don't see I don't see why it will just sort of go sideways up, despite what the Nasdaq's doing. So I think we're going to come back down here, and after that we're going to test the lows and break new lows. It's quite simple. That's what I think is going to happen. The Nasdaq, look at this. I did say, actually, I did say when it was here on Wednesday, I think I said it Thursday morning before the market opened, but I said, look, you got to respect this. If we close above this, we could go all the way up here, which is actually what we did. We closed above the descending, but we closed all the way up here. And I didn't do a video. Basically, I've been sick all week, but I've been having fun being sick, just indoors on my computer all day like a loser. but not the worst week to have that. So, we close all the way up here. So evidently we're going to go test this nearest resistance, which is what we did. We tagged it a little bit red. Jim Cramer's come out and said, I'll come to your funeral if you short the Nasdaq. Well, you can short the Nasdaq, trust me, because although it looks a little, I'm not going to say a little, it looks a little bullish. You have to always respect the fundamental picture. The fundamental picture is we have, let me list it, we have heavy inflation, maybe even getting heavier because of all these bailouts. Interest rates that have to go higher, the markets push them down, because of the fear. And they have to go higher than they were already because inflation is still high and now going to get higher. So you've got interest rates going up, high inflation. You've got a war that's being won by the enemy. And then you've got more geopolitical issues, right? You've got China, Taiwan, and everything else. You've got energy crisis, you've got bear market, and then you've got financial crisis. And you've got just other stuff, more black swans. You just got everything. And you want to buy the Nasdaq over here for a move. I mean, of course you can short the Nasdaq. I wouldn't do it because I'm buying gold stocks, but which is the equivalent of shorting the Nasdaq, you could say. But I just think it's stupid, Jim Cramer saying that. Anyway, and I think it's stupid the Nasdaq being where it is, So I think the Nasdaq will kind of be like the Dow Jones, slow, like the Dow Jones was before. Dow Jones made a nice big move up and eventually comes back down. So I think when the Dow Jones and the Russell start to move down, it will start to drag down the S&P and the Nasdaq. I said that the whole week really because these two were acting pretty strong, but the weakness in the Dow Jones and the Russell is too much, I think. So, very cute what the Nasdaq's done, but I think we'll come back down as soon as we close below this candle. Let's call it 297, or close below 297, straight back down to here. And then it's just, remember, the Nasdaq is one of the ones that can really move down quickly. It flushed down more than the others before. Tech was the most heavily speculated sector. It's just now that it's banking, it's not so much tech. So everyone hides in tech, Apple and all this, Microsoft or whatever. But this can come down very quickly, let's just say. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nasdaq come down. Dow Jones, that was the more defensive, impressive one, which went all the way up. And now look at it, can't even rally to touch this prior support. Just sort of in the middle of this channel here is the highest it got to. Now it's tagging this support zone. For me, next week, as soon as it goes below here, a close, it doesn't even matter, close. I think it will just come all the way back down. And to be honest, next week I'm expecting such fireworks that I wouldn't be surprised if we start to move down here, at least tag it. So a 5% move for a week, I think that's fair, So let's just see. I think Monday will be a big red day, maybe -2% or something. And then we'll just sort of chop sideways down and maybe end up near this bottom. And when you've got the Dow Jones at second last support, I think it's time to wonder whether you're going to break new lows. I mean, I'm already convinced we're going to, but the others will probably start to think that. So I think the Dow Jones is going to crack this and go lower. The Russell is where I think the Dow Jones will be next week. Second last support. So the Russell is already there. Worst close since testing there. Since next week, I think everything goes down. The Russell will go down and test its absolute lows. And of course, you know what I mean by absolute lows. I'm not going to zoom out on the weekly, monthly chart, and show you the other lows, obviously. But, since this bear market, the 160, whatever you want to call it, 2.5, will probably be tested. How much a move down is that? Also 5% or something? Yeah, that's definitely doable. It basically does 2 to 3% a day. So that could be done early on. Now, we do have the Fed next week. So obviously, everything depends on the Fed. What's the market going to do in lead up to the Fed? And does the Fed decision matter? Yeah, it does. Because I think a lot of people will say, okay, they've had a lot of time to price in this financial crisis, which is not going swimmingly for them. Their bailouts, them and the Swiss, have not tamed the market. So maybe it's time for them to surprise the market and do less of a rate increase. Or do they want to be like the ECB and say, no, we will stick with our 50%. But you know, the ECB only did a 50% basis point move because the Swiss bailed out Credit Suisse. That also came out yesterday, I think. So it's all sort of linked. Obviously, the number one threat for me is always inflation. But I must admit now, I think the central banks think that financial stability is more important than inflation, despite what they say. I disagree with that. And I thought they would stick with raising rates because inflation is the biggest monster. And I did think that they were actually more scared of inflation than other people let off. But this banking crisis, I mean, even me, I recognize that the whole system can come down. And I actually understand, I totally disagree if they were to stop raising rates, but I do understand why they might do, let's say, 25 basis points or even shock the market with a pause. I don't think they would lower rates. That would be another shock, and I don't think they like to shock markets. I think they like to give the market what they expect. They like all this stability, even though they've lost it. So I actually think they'll do a 25 basis point increase. I think the market will not flush to new lows with that decision immediately, but we're going to hit the lows. You know, I think we're going to move down. Let's just talk about the Russell here then, you know, move down towards the lows. And then by the time, what is it, March 22nd or something? It's probably February. Yeah. Wednesday, I mean, yeah, 22nd. So we'll probably start venturing towards the absolute lows. And then when they come out with their 25 basis point decision, we bounce a bit. You know, maybe we bounce and test this prior support. By then it'll be prior support, act as resistance. But it depends what the effect is on the banking system. And the banks, I think, will there's not much difference. 25 basis points instead of 50 rate increase is not really going to be fundamentally great for the banks either. So I think we go back down again until there's a massive QE or reversal of QT or a rate drop, a total pivot. You know, going from 20, raising 25 instead of 50 is not a pivot. Pausing is not a pivot. A pivot is, okay, listen, we're going to completely undo and reverse what we've been doing to save the market. We're going to, you know, cut 200 basis points and print 4.3 trillion. That would be a pivot to me, not some tiny modification of a rate increase. So I still think we go down. So that's the market's nice and depressing on a Saturday morning. The VIX, which I'm quite happy with because it has moved up, you know, it awoke from its death down here. I really did give up on the VIX, but finally decided to act somewhat normally. But, you know, it should be higher. It should be in the 30s. And I did say, you know, it should go back to the 26s and maybe test 30. It did that, but I'm not impressed by this. You know, 10% VIX, no. No, we need to have like high 20s, 30, like sort of 28.6 closes, you know? And then maybe close near 30, like next week. I don't know, because the Fed announcement is on Wednesday, and I don't know, but we should be having closes near 30, I would say at this point, you know. So it's still underpriced. And but you know what? I still don't care about the VIX because I'm not trading it. I don't base my judgments on the VIX. And actually, gold is out fixing the VIX. So, you know, I noticed that it's off its deathbed down here. I do think it'll go higher, but I don't really care too much. And it lost my respect for what it did down here, and it's heavily manipulated. And actually, I remember there was another ETF, TVIX, which was like a leverage play, and that was such manipulation, and that was owned by Credit Suisse. So there you go. Let's look at rates. Yeah, rates. I mean, I used to love talking about rates. The charts are beautiful, but now, ever since everyone bought bonds in fear, I've had to totally redo the charts. In fact, there's not much charting to do here. It's just the horizontal and the absolute high. I mean, yeah, you could say the absolute low, but there is no chartable interest rate here because it's just I'm buying bonds out of fear. I mean, you could say that if bonds come down, we're looking at rates here, obviously. If rates come down to here, then yes, they could start moving. You know, there'll be a bit of support down here. But when there's panic, people buy bonds, and you know, no one really cares about technicals. So, and also we have Wednesday next week, so rates should go up. So, it's this dichotomy, rates should go up, but I think we'll have more downside in the market and therefore more fear, and therefore bonds can be bought. So I actually don't know what to expect from yields. I think yields can just stay low until Wednesday, and then they'll probably react from the Fed and go up. So rates go up, bonds are being sold because of the Fed decision to continue the increase to 25 basis point. Well, that's what I think is going to happen. But then as the market starts to go down again, it'll reverse. So I don't know. Tough call. Probably a good swing, but I'm not going to do that. So that's the 1 year. I'm not really going to say anything else. The 2 year, resistance, support, another sort of support zone, maybe between there. It's just this ocean. I mean, you could say there's a little trend line here, maybe between these two, slight gap, almost a middle zone. I don't know. I mean, there's not much point just now. I've said it before, we need the chart to recreate itself a little bit here. It's completely null and voided everything before because we've just gone all the way down, broken any resistance. All the ascending zones have gone. So 5 years, a bit better. You can see we've got a bit more structure left from the old data. I mean, yes, it went straight through this ascending support, but everything else did. But still, we've got this horizontal low from before that's held. So starting to have a bit of old shape left in. That's why I left these trend lines in also. So the lower end is also, yeah, these make more sense. So I'm not going to say anything here. Maybe you can judge the 1 and 2 year by looking at the charts of the 30, 10, and 5. So we are stuck in this channel, and you could say, okay, the 30 and the 10, let's say, which are really the more important ones, the 5 not so much. We're at the bottom of support. So yields, you can expect them to hold a bit here and maybe go up, maybe, on a Wednesday at least. But again, Monday and Tuesday, I expect a little chaos continuation. So maybe we flush, the 10-year could flush its sort of 3.4% zone. The 30-year also could sort of test at least the lower range. It's hard to say. We just got to see. We have to see. But bond traders are probably looking at the 30 and the 10-year charts more than the others because it's a lot easier to read. It looks like we're towards support. It can go a little lower. Again, it depends on the market too. I'm not going to bother looking at the EU yields. Really, for me, what's in focus is the US markets. Even though Credit Suisse is quite important, obviously, but yeah, I'm just gonna, since all the charts are a little destroyed, I'm just gonna stick to the 30 and the 10-year actually to call the direction in all yields. Let's look at the dollar. The dollar was weak yesterday. That helped gold. I'll say that straight away. But the dollar is still not very weak. I've seen a lot of people look at it and say, oh, big head and shoulder, we're going to go back down. And I can understand why we go back down because we've got sort of pro QE policies taking place now. And, this move up did not price in what happened in the last 1.5 weeks. So now you can expect the move down, but I just don't see the move down yet. And obviously Wednesday will play a role. If fear really does return, I did say this before, you could see the dollar and gold moving up. We did have that one day. I think that was Wednesday. But, we still haven't cracked below this support, 103 point, let's say 5. That would be the first absolute level to take out, to be very detailed about things. So let's see if 103.5 holds. And also here, 102 point, let's say 65. But for me, if the dollar just has 1 or 2 up days, straight away it looks bullish. If you have a move where one candle just goes above its last, and especially the one before that, straight away it looks good. Because you have any continuation, that's it, you're testing this high again. And honestly, if you test this high, you're probably going higher because it's the momentum is not expected, and it'd be like a quadruple top breakout. And if you zoom out, the trend is still up, plus the fundamentals justify a move up in the dollar. Normally, when the VIX is going up, gold is going up, you can expect the dollar to go up because there's total fear. I was going to say the bonds also being bought, so it's the fear trade is completely on. And it's weird to not see the dollar not take part. So I think if you have one or two up days in the dollar, I think a lot of people will say, yeah, why isn't the dollar going up? I'll buy the dollar. So I hate covering both sides. Like, yeah, that's possible and that's possible. Because I was going to say, it won't take much to also have some down momentum. An extra down move, let's say on Monday, below this 103.5, and straight away we're moving down to here. And this is the last support before the absolute last support. And when we take this out, then we've got the dollar, which is going to crack below 100, and then the damage is done. I mean, technically and definitely psychologically. So, the dollar is a wait and see, but for me, I don't care about the dollar because gold's going up kind of regardless. And that's what I'm most heavily in. My portfolio is basically 50% miners, gold and silver miners, 40% cash, 10% other stuff, alternative, let's say. Although now that's changed a bit because the miners have gone up so much. And actually, I added to the miners. So my cash, instead of maybe being 40%, it's like, say, 37% or something. I added to the miners on the way up, believe it or not, yesterday. Something I rarely do. I'll get to that later. But for the dollar, I'm just saying, if you see a little strong up move, we're not far away from a nice breakout and continuation. If you have a small down move, we immediately get to this part, and remember, there's only one level left before a massive drop. So I will use the little joker card on the dollar and say it could go up or it could go down. I really rarely say that, but just be aware that there are both directions that are definitely plausible here. So I'll just wait and see. I don't need to wait and see what happens to the dollar to make a trade. So I guess I benefit in that sense. Okay, that's the dollar. Let's look at commodities. Let's start off with copper, which is a little easier to call now. It's pretty hard during this period, but we flushed this. I think we're going back down here. Okay, we had a bit of an up move yesterday, but you can see how prior support acts as resistance. Beautiful technically. Tag that and actually close much far below it. So for me, that's actually bearish. Touch this, going to go low. I think we'll go back down here. Then we have natural gas, which actually moved lower. Now, natural gas is something I bought once around this zone. I'm in no hurry to buy back. I'm going to wait for it to come back down here. If it does, and I'll buy again. If it moves up, I don't think I'll chase and buy more because I'm really focused on the precious metals. I'm not going to chase natural gas. I think the metals are still a better buy up where they are. But I have no problem expecting natural gas to go higher. So at the moment, it seems quite weak with the markets some days. So I think it could actually come back down here. So I'll be disciplined and wait. And if it goes even lower, I'll buy that. I've mentioned how, natural gas is an absolute long-term strong zone. So, and it's a safe bet in my opinion. So I'll wait for it to come lower to buy more. Oil, which lost its low 70s support, which wasn't really support, is now in the mid 60s. I think mid to low 60s is a wonderful buy. Although it seems to come down with the market a bit. So, you could get it even cheaper. So, I don't know if I'll buy any oil. Again, I'm so focused on the metals right now that to buy oil, even though it's a very good buy, maybe I will actually. Maybe I should. And that's what the weekend's for, making sober decisions, taking your time, checking all the different stocks, placing your buys, and then when all the chaos resumes Monday to Friday, you let all your sober trades take place. So maybe I'll look for a good buy in oil here in the low 60s because this is long-term support. You can see why I placed this trend line, although one of them should be deleted. I'll check that later. Oh no, this is the horizontal one. No, I'll get rid of that. Yeah, well, anyway, 62, 63. Yeah, so oil very strong. Again, need to see how it acts with the market though, because we have a total collapse. You could have oil just flushing, and then what a beautiful buy that would be. We have oil flushing. That would take a lot of people by surprise. But yeah, next week's going to be very important for a lot of assets. maybe even including oil. Uranium, I mentioned how we tagged the lower end. Look what it's doing. It found support. Now it's moving back up. I do think uranium will, I don't know actually how to call uranium, because how will it act if the market comes down? I think it's a bit like natural gas, where it could just 1 or 2 days just follow the market because it kind of has to, but it acts on its own supply and demand. So it could just find some days where it has support, like Friday, it was green despite the market being red. So it's probably smart to buy on long-term support zones like this, like oil has also. And I did mention oil and uranium were at support zones. So I didn't buy CCJ, Cameco. I did say I was going to, but honestly, I was so focused on the metals that I just didn't have time to start buying a uranium stock that I've been following. This one also, I will use the weekend to review a bit better. CCJ is what I wanted to buy. I think that was also up a little bit because of uranium. Okay, let's get to gold and silver. I'll do a different video on the others. Also, I want to do another video on my portfolio. I think it's time. I haven't done one for weeks, and today will be the day. So, look at this. This is unbelievable. First of all, I've been checking gold in other currencies. Let's just look at the euro, by the way. Look at this. Zoom out. Just ideal chart. And if you look at the Canadian dollar or whatever else, you'll just see everything testing new highs, to be honest. So let's get back to the dollar. I mean, this is really, really strong, obviously. We closed a high of day, absolute high of day, even in the after hours. 3.5% move in gold is very rare. You can see how it stands out here. Silver 4%. That's not as rare, but still very, very strong stuff. We'll get to silver later. Look, I did say, I don't know what this, I kind of call gold very well. I mean, on this move up here, I thought it was going to top out earlier than it did, and it surprised me on how high it went. I was trimming on the way up, kind of regretting not holding fire. And then when it came all the way back down, I was really making glory laps, just very, very happy that it came back down again. And then I re-entered, I touched a little bit here on the drop back down to this channel. I remember I think it was 1870-ish, and then it came back down again even more. I was very happy about that. I said 1830 or 1800. We hit 1830, and I said, okay, we're gonna get to 1800. And then we hit 1800, and I was buying 1830 and 1800. And then I sold 1830 when it went back up again. And then I bought back 1800. But these were small buys, I was sort of tiptoeing around, little good trades. They were very good trades. Now that I think about it, it was really ideal trading in terms of the levels that were called, because those are the levels that they traded on the way up and on the way down. When we got back down here again, yeah, I bought a little bit back, but nothing special. But after these two big days up here, this Thursday, and I remember like it was yesterday, because to be honest, it was yesterday, very recently. Thursday and Friday, that's when the chaos of SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, started to hit the wire. And I remember saying around here, normally I wouldn't be bullish something that's just had a major move, but the chart is very strong. It's like a very strong W, double bottom, higher low, close much higher than this pivot resistance. And given the fundamentals behind why it's moving up, I said we could have a crazy move up. We could get to 1960, I even said. And we did. We did. And not only did we do that, but basically we're at 2000. For me, 1988.50 is the same as 2000. Exactly the same thing. Of course, we're going to hit 2000 in the morning on Monday. Of course, there'll probably be some panic buying over the weekend, some gold and silver shops, right? Let's see what the premiums are like on some of these gold coins. So we'll probably blast right through 2000, which will hit some shorts, momentum. Day traders will throw in and probably get to 2050. Can you imagine that? On Monday, before the market started, you're at 2050 on gold. Silver's probably starting to do its silver squeeze stuff. That'll probably be up way more. The miners are up like 10% pre-market, something. That's probably possible. The point is, I think I called gold pretty well. And more importantly, I traded it well. And what I did yesterday, because I was trimming on this move up here, 19, no, yesterday here when we were tagging this zone, 1937, 1937, 1940. I was trimming a little bit of my new wont because it was a little overweight and I wanted to buy some others. I was just rebalancing the portfolio a bit, but more on the sell side. And then yesterday, during this crazy move up here, when I saw 1962 holding, there was a period where it was above 60. I thought, you know what, we're gonna really run here. And anyway, that was the miners. It's a miners related trade, so I don't really have to show the gold chart for this. But basically, I chased some miners back. I bought some more miners, some that are actually like trading down here, as if gold was 1845. So yeah, I bought some miners, but I'm very happy with gold. I never would normally think that a chart would do this, but you've got to respect fundamentally what's going on. People are buying gold and silver because they don't trust the banking system. They really don't. And I'm not talking about the little guys. I'm talking about some big institutions, some big boys are saying, you know what, these small regional banks that will not be insured. A lot of people are taking their money out of these small banks and throwing it into the big banks. But the big banks are also part of the small banks, and these people don't generally trust the banking system, and they all have the same problems. They all borrowed short and bought long. So I don't know. For me, just keep it simple. It's a banking crisis, and people are flocking to gold, even Bitcoin. And the VIX isn't doing what it really should be doing. The dollar isn't doing what it should be doing. It's really gold, silver, crypto, not even crypto, Bitcoin, because that one's the one that's going up. All the other altcoins are not going up as much. If you look at, Bitcoin versus the other altcoins, Bitcoin's gaining more market share. So it's gold, silver, Bitcoin, and bonds. The VIX is doing a little bit, but gold is the main go-to, and of course silver. So for me, the damage is done here technically. We cleared 1960. I think a retracement, yeah, we could have a retracement back down to 1960. It could go a little lower, but for me, this chart looks beautiful. And in other currencies, it looks even better. So let's see. I think we're going to go, take out 2000 on Monday. Silver has some catching up to do. I've said that. Silver should be all the way up here, 2450. And to be honest, Monday, what I think is going to happen is gold will go all the way up to 2000. I think silver by then has to trade back in the 23, 24 zone. So yeah, silver, at least, I mean, it's asking a lot here, but if we can, 8% is asking a lot, but you could have one of those silver squeeze days. You really could. So maybe $24, 6%. I'll leave this here to see if I'm right. But a good close, high of day close right on this little resistance. You can see this small resistance here, but this line is not really prior support. It was just for me to see if we flush this. I mean, let's just say it was support at the time there, but on the way up, this isn't going to matter. I think I don't even know where resistance would be. I'm just going to delete it actually. Resistance will be the descending line as it was the whole time. So let's see how high up we get on Monday. I do expect it to continue. Let's see if we can do a 6% move. And silver, look, Thursday and Friday, look what Thursday candle did. Nothing. And then on Friday it was here. And then I said silver really has to catch up. And what happened the next day? Bam, massive move. It definitely caught up. And it's still trying to catch up. It knows it has a job to do. It needs to catch up. Because if gold's at 2000 on Monday, you really think silver's going to be hanging around here? It has to. I mean, the equivalent of 2000, to be honest, is $50. So it should at least be 30. So you could say, all right, get your ass up to 24 at least, man. Just get to 24. And as soon as we close above this, then I think then I'll let the other people talk about what they can expect from silver. You get a lot of people who go crazy about silver, and I'm one of them. But I'll let them get very excited about it. But I think first we need to close really, above 25 at least. Let's just see if we can get to 24 first. So very excited. Let's look at the miners. Now the miners are also catching up finally, because they were making less of a move than silver at one point. Where was that Thursday? Was it this Thursday here? Look at that Thursday. It was even less than silver. Look at that. It was a red day. Just touching the bottom, scraping the bottom. That's why I wasn't really into buying miners. If gold and silver are going up and the miners are going down, touching the bottom, and the market's flushing, I thought miners would go down here. Thank God that savvy traders finally understood that no, miners are, the price of miners should be based on the earnings of what they mine, and what they mine are the metals, and the metals are going up. So their margins will be much, much better. So the price should be up. So they moved up eventually, and now look, we finally have a conclusive decision. Miners are going up following the metal. I did say they're being, on the one side being dragged down by the markets, on the other side being held up by the metals going up. But now they've made their bed and they sleep with gold and silver, especially yesterday, Friday, beautiful move up, 4-5%. At one point it was 6-7%, a bit like this day here. I think there was another 6-7% in the last few days. And now, look, if gold is at 2000 on Monday and silver makes its move to 24, you can expect GDX, GDXJ to touch this upper zone, which is the highs we went to last time, which is how much of a percentage move? Yeah, another 5-6-7%. So I think we're going to have a Monday, a bit like the Friday we had. If that happens, that's going to be beautiful. And you know what I really like about this is our little sector is going up. And I heard once that Apple is worth more than all the gold and silver miners combined. I really hope that's true. That's absurd. And imagine that all these big investors start to finally realize the one sector that's going to make money, or that's safe during this turmoil, and they start to pour their money in. It's just going to go absolutely ballistic. So I think, and they're not sort of little technical traders. They like to see big moves. So once you start to clear, let's say 34 on the GDX, they'll say, wait a minute, maybe we're onto something. and then help squeeze this thing to 40 real quick. That's how you get those crazy moves sometimes. So let's see. I expect GDX actually to go all the way up here. I don't want to say on Monday straight away, and also you got to think what's going to happen on Wednesday. Are we going to have a quick reversal right back down again? Maybe that's a swing opportunity. If it does go all the way up here, by the way, I will, out of general principle, trim a little bit, even though I think they're going much higher. I can't resist the fact that this is obvious resistance. I will trim, 1/15 of every gold and silver stock I have. I'm not going to do 1/10. I'm not going to do 10%. That's a bit too much, I think, because of where I think it's going. But just something is going to be trimmed off. So that if we do swing back down again, I'll go in. I will buy back more than what I sold, actually. But yeah, I'll sell something if we get all the way up here. GDXJ, honestly, same thing. These trend lines can start to go, although you can see how this ascending one was pretty correct here. It did touch it, coinciding with this one, so that was nice. This one was also correct. I just don't think it will count as much if we come back down again. I'll leave it in, actually. No, actually, these trend lines are fine. But yeah, I do think we'll go all the way back up. I don't think this gap fill will count. I think if we're going up, we're not going up to fill a small gap. We're going up to fill an ocean, and we're going to go all the way up here. So exact same thing I expect. And it's probably the same type of a move. No, it's more, but that's okay. It's GDXJ, 10%, no problem. If gold's going through 2000 like butter, I think GDXJ can have a 10% pre-market move even. So I normally never talk like this, pre-market 10% GDXJ, but it's just a very extraordinary circumstance at the moment. I feel like I should spend more time on the miners, but I don't think I need to. It's pretty clear. Up with gold and silver. And those are the levels. Let me move on to crypto. Now, crypto, I was saying it yesterday on a little crypto group I follow, but there's this ascending support that's acted as resistance, in my opinion. But we broke above it yesterday, Friday close, and then so far today we're touching it. I do think crypto will get to 30,000. I think that any sector that's not going down with the markets will benefit quite well from more of the same. So I don't see, and plus we've cleared 25,000. We've cleared this little resistance that I identified. I'm not sure if it's, I think it was resistance on several days it was. So why not just get to 30? It's nothing. It's not asking much. Bitcoin deserves it. They've suffered massively and they do, self-custody or whatever they want to call it. It's true. You're not you're not gonna have or okay, you have these crypto exchanges, that's different, but Bitcoin itself, if you have it on your little hard wallet or whatever they call it, hard storage, what do you care about some bank run and all this stuff? You don't care. It doesn't affect Bitcoin. So I respect that, and I think it deserves to go to 30,000, maybe even a little higher because there'll be some panic. 30,000 would be a great number for Bitcoin and all the hodlers. So the thing is, there are some days where Bitcoin, not some days, but recently, intraday, I can see the markets going down, and straight away I can see the other charts. Complete opposite. Gold's going to new highs, or not necessarily new highs, but it's going up the second that the market's going down. And the gold miners are going up the second the market's going down. That used to never happen the last couple of weeks, months, but it's perfectly timed opposite movement. And crypto sometimes follow the markets. Sometimes it doesn't. So it's not as strong an opposite to the markets as gold and silver. But overall, you zoom out, and instead of looking at the 1 minute chart, you're looking at the 10-minute chart. It's kind of moving opposite. And so anyway, I do think it will go up. I just, what happens if the market tumbles? What happens if the market really goes down? Now, what does Bitcoin do? Because this is so far, we've had 1.5% down, 2% days. Nasdaq down nothing, right? Nasdaq's been strong. Bitcoin, maybe if it follows any market, it follows Nasdaq. Nasdaq's had a nice move up, a bit like Bitcoin. What happens if the Nasdaq has a minus 3.5% day or a minus 5.6% day because Deutsche Bank is maybe failing, Credit Suisse is failing. Credit Suisse is going bankrupt despite this 30 billion bailout. Okay, now what? All the markets are down. Is Bitcoin up or down? I don't know. And actually, is gold? Okay, no, gold is up, but are the miners up or down? I think they'll be up too. But with Bitcoin, I'm not as sure. So I think if we have the same sort of days where the Nasdaq's down a little bit and gold and silver are up, fear is up, then Bitcoin can get to 30,000. But if there's total pandemonium, maybe Bitcoin goes down. So keep my eye on that. I did actually add to Hive, my crypto miner. I'll do another video on my portfolio right after this. I'll speak about every single stock in detail there. But just in case Bitcoin does continue, I did add a little bit. So Bitcoin, quite happy. But also, I feel like, Bitcoin is eating more market share. When I look at the altcoins, they're not, okay, maybe not so far on Saturday, but it's Bitcoin that's really the go-to asset. A bit like gold is the go-to asset. I will finish with the banking stocks. These little banks. XLF. Look at that. A bit like the Russell 2000, close, low of day, worst close compared to all of these daily candles over here. It really won't take much. It's, for me, almost guaranteed that Monday we just go lower. Look, it was minus 3.5%. And I understand why I put this as support zone, because this candle is like an outlier. It just opened below, closed above. Massive reversal candle, this, by the way, which is also why I just reversed. Look at that. Perfect technicals, that huge candle there. So I don't consider this the absolute low. I consider this here 30, plus it's 30, I remember. But of course, if we take out this 29.50, then why not? Yeah, I think we'll get to 30. We'll test 30 on on Monday. Why not? And if we do, That's the absolute lows. And then if we go lower than that, then I'll have to redo this chart, to be honest. Yeah, the Corona drop destroyed this chart a little bit, but otherwise this, you can see why I left this line in. This would be the ascending support. So therefore it might act as support on the way down. But if we're down here on Monday, then the Russell 2000 could also be at its absolute low. And then that means kind of Tuesday, we could be making new bear market lows in the XLF, the banking ETF, as well as the Russell 2000. And that's pretty impressive to already be there. You know, that did not take long. That escalated quite quickly. That's the XLF. Now let's look at Deutsche Bank. To me, this is actually the one. Because Credit Suisse is the one I've been talking about because all right, go on, let's start with Credit Suisse, my favorite. Been covering this for a long time since I started this channel. Trust me, I was looking at it before starting this channel. But you know, if the XLF is down 3%, and look, you know, this is after the bailout. Look at this reaction after the bailout. I noticed the moment I saw it hit the wires that Swiss National Bank was in discussions, blah blah, whatever. They're going to bail them out. Didn't rally too much. It rallied and then came all the way back down again. Then it rallied and came back down again. It wasn't the biggest rally. And then the next day, look at that. You know, how much of a move down? Okay, you know, 12% sounds like a lot. It's not. It's not. If XLF is down 3%, you can do another 10% move. If you have this Credit Suisse making new lows, maybe it happens on Monday. I don't know. It's asking a lot also, but at least testing its old lows, 180, let's say. If you have Credit Suisse at 180, after all the money that's been poured in, then what? You know, and that's Credit Suisse. There could be another bank that starts to fail. That will drag Credit Suisse down and the whole sector. And it all feeds on each other. It's beautiful. These guys deserve it. And what happens if credit? You know what? I know what. If I zoom out, there's nothing to see. It's never been there. It's this reaction I have to just zoom out to see the next support. There is no next support. It's just, you know, pick your numbers. You start to take out 175, I don't know, 150, then $1, and then when you're penny stock, then it's over. You know, pack your bags. And then what? UBS gonna buy them out or something? Do you really want to touch that? That's a story in itself. But Credit Suisse, this is not the best reaction after being bailed out. The XLF we've seen is only 3%, just like the Russell 2000, not much to get to its bear market lows. So imagine that's Monday. Well, Tuesday needs to be a miracle, and then Wednesday the Fed needs to throw a massive bone. But they shouldn't, and they might not. And next week could be even crazier than the week we've had this time. But Deutsche Bank, seriously, to get back to Deutsche Bank, doesn't look like it's as crazy. But I think this one has had more scandals than Credit Suisse. Let me just zoom out very quickly. Same sort of chart, just total filth. You know, it did break out of this. So now you can see I've been watching this a long time ago. I need to redo all. I will redo everything. The banking sector deserves it. It's the only thing it deserves for me to redo the disgusting charts. But you know, look at this. A small move. Okay, 20% is nothing. It's nothing. It's done in 1 week. It could be the week next week. You know, if we get back to $7, that's it. You know, any more move lower, then you have to visit the absolute lows, and then it's finished. That's Deutsche Bank. That's the biggest bank of Europe, I would say. I'm just gonna say that randomly because that is the main German bank. And if Germany loses its main bank, it's kind of finished. I mean, the whole EU to me has had its biggest pillar just pulled from it. And at the same time, you got Credit Suisse, you got all these other ones. I mean, look at these last 2 days, right? Oh, sorry, this is a weekly. Yeah, okay, doesn't matter. 2 weekly candles. It takes another 1 or 2 weeks and you're down there. And honestly, if you're at $7, if you don't bounce from 7, if you start to flush below 7, you have to go to the lows. And if you're going to the lows, it's kind of finished. So for me, Deutsche Bank is the next one. I mean, for me, Credit Suisse is done. It flushed, it panicked everyone. The markets have done what it's done. I benefited massively from the gold miners because of Credit Suisse and, of course, from Silicon Valley Bank and everything that really started it. But next is Deutsche Bank, and that's bigger than Credit Suisse. HSBC, another one which, a few more moves lower. I'm on the weekly chart here. Zoom out. It'd be down here. HSBC. City. We're really talking about the big boys here. Look at this one, still on a weekly. Imagine next week starts to close below 40. I don't know, it's like, look at that, how quick it can get from 40 just down to 10 or something. Zero's just here. So I mean, what happens if Citibank starts to have its then the whole system, the whole system already is on shaky footing. So, and finally, First Republic Bank. Let's just go on a daily. Look where this one closed. This. Wait, I don't know why I have these trend lines. I was watching them and watching the XLF. I really am paying attention to the banking stocks sometimes just to judge some gold entries even. So look at this. This is toast. Monday, Tuesday, whatever. We're flushing this, and then this is basically going also. So yeah, Bank of America. Look at them. They look like, okay, Bank of America is not going to zero, but totally closed below its bear market lows, right? Notice that? Completely closed at low of day. Like, we're going to go all the way down here. You could almost say it's a buy at 22.50, let's say. So these banking stocks look horrible. And we're talking about the very, very best ones. Okay, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs are the best and they're still good. But look at the close is also pretty bad. So Goldman, look at this closing below the ascending. Straight back down here. And they say as go the banks goes the market. I'm paraphrasing, but I see a lot of these big banks going to new bear market lows. You could have Goldman Sachs easily just making new lows. So anyway, I'm going to end the video there. I think you get the point. The market looks weak. Will continue to go lower. You've only got the Nasdaq that's not looking weak, and the S&P a little bit, but that will go lower. I think the Nasdaq will start to give up its outperforming strength. Otherwise, more of the same. Gold, for me, it's all about gold. Silver, let's have a silver squeeze over the weekend. Get your little Twitter things going, Let's get these coins bought, and not just for fun, but you need to buy some silver now because that's going to go up. And it's better than having money in the bank, because that's the thing. We're talking about bank runs, not just small bank runs, but medium and big bank runs. So European bank runs, not just US, global bank runs. So yeah, markets lower, gold and silver, and the gold and silver miners, thankfully, have decided to follow gold and silver. Up. VIX, yeah, up. Dollar, it can go either way. It can go either way. I don't want to take a guess. If things get really crazy, up. If they continue as they are, which is pretty crazy, down, which will just really propel gold and silver higher. You know what? Gold and silver and a bit of crypto. Everything else, just stay away. So, and remember, for me, at one point, I'm going to sell gold and silver. This is not some job for life where I just buy gold and silver. I cannot wait to sell gold and silver if the day comes, much higher than where it is now. And the miners, by gold and silver, I mean miners, and then buy some other beautiful stocks that will be so much cheaper. And that's what I really like about this. Not only am I seeing my stocks go up, I'm seeing all the other stocks go down. And I can just see the difference just widen and widen. A day will come where I sell like Nico Eagle and I buy eBay. Just right now, it's by far better to hold Nico Eagle. And obviously, I'm making fun. eBay is nothing special, but something like Amazon, the difference is just getting wider and wider. So I just love it for that reason also, not just because gold and silver going up, but the other good stocks, Amazon's a good stock, Google is a good stock. I don't want to say Tesla, but there are some good blue chips out there that you can get cheaper. So I'm loving that. Anyway, I'm gonna make more videos. I'm gonna do my portfolio now, and otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that. Have a very good weekend, and try and get some gold and silver coins maybe, and get your little Twitter handles on the Silver Squeeze. I think that will help. Okay, thanks.